lighting is weird. Hey, Jen Sanji. Hi, Connie. Hi, everybody. If you're here, give me a shout out because once again, I don't know that you're here. It's such a weird thing. It may be because it's a group page and it's not an actual identity. Hi, Marianne. It's not an actual person page, so it doesn't give me the lineup of who's watching. I don't know. It's Facebook. Can't live with it. Can't really live without it. How's everybody doing tonight? The air quality is garbage. I am I'm going to be totally honest with you guys. It's kind of getting me in the dumps. I don't know. Does anybody else have that where it's like you don't see the sun for a long time and this air is terrible and you can't go outside and it's just ugh, I don't know. It gets me kind of feeling like I need a dose of the ocean or something. I'm pretty sure the ocean fixes everything. I'm going to wait a few more minutes to see if anybody else jumps on. I can't see what time it is. I think it's 4:58. Yes, the lighting in here is really weird tonight, so I can't quite see everything, but that's okay. Oh, I meant to print this. I lost everybody. There we are. Okay. I was trying to multitask. Hi, whoever just got on. Again, I can't see you. Hi, Jim. Hi, Papa Jim. Ocean does fix everything, Connie. It is the truth. My grandma used to say, as you know, Connie, that Grandma Helen always used to say that if you get a boo-boo, you have a scratch, you have a this, oh, just get in the ocean. It'll fix it. And she was totally right. Cleared up your face, gave you good hair. The ocean does all the magical things. Mike Trolinder, hello. It is 5 o'clock, y'all, so let's just go ahead and get started. Again, if you're just jumping on, I can't see that you're here. I do have Pete kind of in the background letting me know when people pop on because I do like to say hi to you personally. Just a few rules of the road if you've never been on one of my lives before. Hi, Jenica. The household, I miss her too, Connie, every single day. The household I live in has 3 dogs. Sorry, that's a lie. I have 2 dogs, 3 cats, 2 turtles, a bearded dragon, some fish. Oh, and 3 kids. So if things get crazy in the background, that's all that's going on right now. Don't be alarmed. Hi, Patty. It can get chaotic behind me, but actually we've been pretty good so far. The kids have been watching a lot of movies at 5 o'clock on Friday. So this will be available on the Facebook page after it is over. So you can go back and watch, or you can refer friends to watch. It will also be available on YouTube without the comments, obviously. So if there are questions, I will try my very best to make sure I read the questions so that there's some context for our friends who don't have Facebook and are going to watch it later on YouTube. As always, please feel free to share the heck out of this so we can get people on here so they can ask their questions. One of the hallmarks of my campaign is being available to you guys. That means that I will take any question about Rio Vista, and I'm happy to, if I will always tell you, if I don't know the answer, I will find the answer and I will get it back to you. So I'm going to start off just real quick with a couple of questions that I got after our last live. If you were there, you know that Bruce Springer had such a challenge getting a question submitted to me. So we finally got the question, and so I wanted to address it here. So hopefully he can see this later. So his question was about paying your water and sewer bill online. Last week we did talk water sewer, and I thought it was a great question. I wish it had come up because it really goes to the city's technology challenges. Um, if you've ever tried to pay your city water sewer bill, you know that you go to the city's homepage, there's a little icon that says pay your water sewer bill. But if you click on that, nothing happens. That's actually not the live link. The live link is actually underneath that on this other little thing. And so you can click it 20 times, it's still not going to take you anywhere. So eventually you'll get there, and then you will go to Aquahawk's page where you will log in. Now, a couple things about the water sewer paying online. Kudos to the city for finally getting us to the point where we can pay our bill online and not have to drop a check off. But just a reminder, if you are paying your water sewer bill on the day that it is due, so the last day of the month, and you're doing it online, it will not post until the next business day. So you still could be considered late. I always tell people, if you're paying online on the last business day, give the city a call. They're so helpful down there. Love those ladies, especially Sandy Shoemaker. Big shout out. So those ladies are great, and just let them know. I just made my payment online. Just wanted to let you guys know. That's really all it takes. But let's talk about the technology for a second. It should not take a human at City Hall to transfer online payments into the other system that we use. The two systems that we have don't talk to each other. So that's the challenge. It takes a human to be the go-between I paid you online and now you're going to enter me into this other system so that that system knows that I paid, so that I won't get a late payment and I won't get a shut off notification. We are so much further than we used to be, and mad props to the city for making that happen. But we've got a ways to go. And I do want to talk about the city's technology challenges. I think that it is so important and so critical, and frankly, so deficient that it deserves its own Q&A session. So look for that in the future. We'll be having an entire Q&A live at 5 about technology and ways we can improve it. There really isn't a way for us to make it worse at this point because we are starting from the bottom, basically. Here's Henry saying hi, my middle child. Say hi, Henry.
Hi.
There you go. So then the second question that I got after the live, Bruce, I hope that answered your question. The other question that I got after my live last week was a great question from, I can't remember her name, an employee at Delta Breeze, and she had asked me about something that was said at the last city council meeting by our current mayor, that he is not happy with the contract that we have with Delta Breeze, which, for those of you who don't know, that is our public transportation system in town. Hi, Lydia. So he's not happy because, and this is true, I won't lie to you guys, 9 times out of 10, we're either losing money with the Delta Breeze because it costs more to operate than they actually take in. Or, thank you, it's Mary Catherine Blanchard. I'm so sorry I forgot your name. So we're not taking in as much money as we're spending on it. It's public transportation, y'all. If somebody could point to me a public transportation system that actually makes money, I'd love to know about it. So he is basically saying that he would like to see Delta Breeze go away in favor of a more expensive, for the rider, frankly, concierge type service that's called GoGo Granddaddy. It's basically Uber or Lyft for senior citizens. Nothing wrong with it. I think it's fantastic. But it does have a price point that I think is going to eliminate a lot of the users who are currently using Delta Breeze. If you've ever used Delta Breeze, you will know that they're really great at what they do. They service a lot of our we do, Lydia. They service a lot of our aging population in Trilogy who can't drive anymore, but they have to go out of town for a doctor's appointment. because we don't have medical services in Rio Vista, and they're literally a phone call away. I don't think I've ever heard in all my years in Rio Vista and attending city council meeting, I don't think I've ever heard a complaint about Delta Breeze. They are I've watched them, um, you know, help physically disabled people get into the van. They are very accommodating. They're kind. They know everybody's name. Um, I really can't say enough good things about them. Um, and there are ways to not make it profitable, but to make it to ease some of the financial burden on the city. And that would look like, strategizing different routes, maybe offering different kind of voucher programs. You know, it, let's let's kind of brainstorm how we can keep Delta Breeze, and not necessarily make it profitable, but let's figure out a way to make it break even. I have no intention of the Delta Breeze going anywhere. If anything, I'd like to make it better. I certainly don't want to do away with it. So hopefully that answered your question, Mary Catherine. I know you are an employee of Delta Breeze, and I thank you for all that you do, especially during COVID. You're basically, you're essential workers. You're putting yourself on the line too when you go to pick up rides, and I appreciate you and all that you do. Okay, so that takes care of the questions that I've gotten since our last live at 5, for the most part. So before I start on general plan talk, does anybody have any questions not related to the general plan that they'd like to throw out right now? I will also take more questions at the end. Seeing none, let's talk general plan. So if you go down to the Rio Vista Museum, if you don't know where that is, that's on Front Street, across from the Moose Lodge. You can knock on the door and say, "Hi, I'd like to see the ancient document called the General Plan." That's a joke. It's not actually at the museum, but it probably should be. The thing was written and accepted in 2001. Does anybody here remember where they were in 2001? Um, so yeah, it was a long time ago, and it really, actually, I'm going to link it it is available on the city website. You do have to dig a little bit. So I will go ahead and link it in the comments so you guys can go take a look at it. It's a pretty hefty document, but I personally like reading those kinds of things. So I got through it pretty quickly, and it's actually very well done. The stakeholders that were involved are names that you know. They are residents, some of them residents who are still living in Rio Vista. They gave great input about what they want the city to look like someday, and I cannot say enough about the good work that they did. But it was 2001, and a lot of things have changed in 2001. Let me take you on a little trip down general plan lane. So in 2001, the general plan was accepted by the city of Rio Vista. And then in 2007, they decided that they needed to do a waterfront specific plan. So they felt that the information in the general plan wasn't, while it did have a waterfront component, a waterfront development component, they didn't think that that was strong enough. They really wanted to emphasize, the waterfront district and, how to improve it. So in 2007, they did a waterfront area specific plan. Then in 2007, they also decided to redo the parks master plan. So they took the parks planning that was in the general plan and sort of kicked it up a notch and got more specific. This is William, my youngest child, making an appearance. And then, if you all remember, I do, the RUDAT was done in 2014, which, if the city had adopted the RUDAT findings, would have been a great replacement for our general plan, but they did not. And then the city also had to update the housing element in 2015. So since 2001, we've taken at least, this is what I could find on the website, at least 4 basically addendums to the general plan that were never made part of the general plan. So these are just these superfluous documents that just sort of exist out here in a place and were never incorporated into the general plan. So I want to talk a little bit about, and this is a question I get a lot, why are we redoing the general plan when we could just update it? And it's a great question. You can see that we've attempted updates to specific parts of the general plan 4 times that I know about. So in that time from 2001 to 2015, we've spent money on doing updates to the general plan instead of just outlaying the money and redoing the whole plan altogether. I don't I don't believe that if right now you were to put stakeholders in a room, I'm not sure that they would have the same findings about what they want the future of Rio Vista to be as they did in 2001. It's not for me to judge what community members want the city to be in 30 years or 20 years. But I know that things have changed since 2001. In 2001, it was very important to the general planners that Rio Vista not become a bedroom community. They did not want homes without jobs for people to work in Rio Vista. They basically wanted a ratio. If you build a house, they wanted some sort of, industry to kind of go along with it. I mean, obviously that didn't come to pass. We have family housing, but we don't necessarily have this booming industry here, unless you want to count cannabis, where people get to go to work. So, is it feasible to base a general plan around that idea that we aren't a bedroom community? Personally, my husband commutes. My husband commutes to Palo Alto every day. I don't know a lot of people who actually work and live in Rio Vista. I think that is becoming one of those. I'm not sure that that's something that's going to be, the direction the city wants to the people that we want to market the city to in the future. So, specifically, let's talk Liberty development. Anybody here from Liberty? Again, can't see who's on the comments. Are any of my Liberty people on here? I don't think so. So let's talk Liberty development. No? No. Okay, so the Liberty development is a perfect example of this. I only know of two. I don't know everybody who lives in Liberty. I'm not going to pretend I do. But I only know two people who live in Liberty that actually work in the city of Rio Vista, and one of them's a city employee. So, even Liberty, when we marketed Liberty, we weren't marketing it to people who lived in Rio Vista. We were marketing it to people who live in Fairfield, Oakley, Brentwood, Sassoon, because this is a great place to raise a family, but it isn't necessarily a great place to find a job. Can we change that? Yes, but are we going to have this huge boom in manufacturing that wants to move to Rio Vista in the next 20 years? I don't think so. So we got to make sure that we're supplying the needs of working families in this community, and we need to have a general plan that reflects that. I meant to print this out for you guys before we started, but the 2015 update to the housing plan, and I will put that in the comments too. It's not available on the website. You actually have to go to the city council meeting where it happened and read the attachment there. It talks a lot about low-income housing, about mixed-use housing, about where they saw in 2015 the state of California going in reference to the requirements for mixed-use housing and low-income housing, and they set a lot of ambitious goals. One of which is that they wanted more low-income housing available for daycare facilities for female head of households. They wanted more mixed-use residences or apartment complexes with 3 or 4 bedrooms to accommodate larger families. They also talked in 2015 about establishing a homeless shelter and meeting the needs of our unhoused. There were a lot of great ideas in the 2015 housing plan update, but they just kind of haven't come to pass in the last 5 years. Now, a lot of that might have to do with us firing our community development director and our planning director and our public works director. A lot of that might be related. Those are key positions in the city of Rio Vista, especially during this time. You've probably all heard about Sino, and you've probably all heard about maybe not Riverwalk, maybe you haven't heard that term, the development that Sino is planning on building in the Montezuma Hills. Excuse me, I have a dry throat. It's this air. Is called Riverwalk. So when you hear me use those terms, that's what I'm talking about. So Riverwalk is going to be about 700 homes, perhaps, mixed use, family, low income, moderate income, open space. That is the plan, and I have been told more than once that it's imminent. I will tell you, I called Sino today. I left a message, didn't get anybody back. I don't know how imminent it is. Sino is one of those developers that won't build unless they are sure they can sell them. So with COVID-19 and the slight downturn in the economy, I think we've bought ourselves a little bit of time for Sino. Um, so I'm sorry, I got distracted. So when Sino comes in, there's going to be a lot of requirements, hopefully, from the city, and this is going to need a hi Tammy. This is going to need a community development director. This is going to need a planning manager to really go over that development agreement that's now 20 years old with a fine-tooth comb to make sure that it's fitting in with the elements that we want to see in Rio Vista, that we do want low to moderate income housing. I know there was this huge debate on Nextdoor. Thanks, Lydia. So I'm sorry, I can't read. I'm putting on my glasses. Don't judge. So right now I forgot where I was going. I am so scatterbrained today, y'all. I'm just gonna keep it real. So when the development agreement we're looking at for Sino for the Riverwalk is old, and if we really want those housing elements that should be involved in the 15-year housing development that goes through 2023, I believe, 2023, which calls for low and moderate income housing, then we've got to have a serious conversation with Sino about how that's going to look. So a community development director, a planning manager, those are all key elements. Patty asks, isn't Sino the builder with the 10-year option for building on 12 at Church? So Sino has a plan that is both their development agreement covers housing, open space, and a commercial development. And yes, you are correct. That is the location. So if that's what you're asking me, yes, that's true. I believe that their development agreement has been re-upped at least once. They got their, they bought the land here in Rio Vista at a very low price a long time ago. Thank you, Marianne, for keeping me on task. I was talking about the housing on Nextdoor. So yes, they got that in for a very low cost at just the right time. Sino, if you don't know who Sino Builders is, they are a home builder mostly out of Contra Costa County. All the developments that you see in the former grazing land in Brentwood, Oakley area that kind of go up the hill, that's Sino. They build beautiful homes. I will never take anything away from them. I worked with them in a previous job that I had, and they were very good to work with. But I can tell you, they're in it to make money, as all developers are. And until they are comfortable that they're going to sell the inventory, they won't pull the trigger here. Susie Meredith is asking, where in Montezuma Hills are they talking about building? I said Montezuma Hills. That was I probably misspoke that. It's actually, so if you're going down Highway 12 towards Trilogy from Core Rio Vista, it's that area on the right-hand side between, like, where Rechurch is? It's the area behind them. So if you're coming out the Diamond Hill gates or you're coming out the Marks gates, you are looking directly across the street at Sino's property. So basically between Homecoming and Trilogy, those will all be houses someday. But again, don't panic. I don't think it's coming anytime soon. I have been wrong before, but I think with our current economy and I think it's probably going to have to get kicked down the road even more. I know Sino is under a time crunch to re-up their development agreement, which expires here pretty soon. So, they're going to kind of be held over the barrel shortly by the city. And, the city's going to be in a position, I think, a favorable position in those negotiations to probably ask Sino to do a lot of things in order to start construction here. So, again, general plan. So, if we're looking at the general plan and if we're talking to Cino Homes and we're sitting in a meeting and we're re-upping that development agreement, it's going to be critical that we're able to look at our general plan and check the boxes. Okay, but this is not our, this doesn't meet our housing element. This doesn't meet our architectural review. This doesn't meet, how we want continuity in communities. There are a lot of great ideas about, especially about housing and infrastructure, that come out of a general plan. And, I think that Rio Vista is different now than it was in 2001. And I think that what Rio Vistans want from their community are different than the way it was in 2001. Marianne reminded me that there was a conversation on Nextdoor this week, and yes, there was. I think it's up to something like 200 and some odd comments. I'll be honest with you, I stopped answering questions because I got tired. Um, I do have to sleep eventually, people. So it was kind of a conversation that devolved into a lot of NIMBY. If you all don't know what NIMBY is, that's not in my backyard. The city has hinted around and commissioned a study about rezoning the intersection of Harris Airport and Church Roads. So if you're coming out of Trilogy at the Diamond Hills Gate, you're going to take a left on Church Road. When you get to the stop sign, that's the intersection we're talking about. That's Harris Airport Church Road. It'll be on your right-hand side. The city owns approximately 50 acres there. It's a beautiful plot of land that at one point was told to citizens. In fact, they had architectural drawings drawn up in the whole 9 yards. That was the future site of hopefully a community center, a police station, which if you've seen our city's police station, you'll know why we need a new one, and a satellite fire department, and of course the infamous outdoor recreational facilities. Bocce. Hi, Deborah Richards. Hi, Mary Beth. My mother-in-law just got on. Hi, Mary Beth. So at one point, we actually had Mark McTeer, who is a wonderful architect. If you don't know him, you should. Mark McTeer did some beautiful drawings, some conceptual drawings of what the sports complex could look like, because the city council identified that as the first of the 3 priorities that they set out for that parcel of land. So basically, it would be correct, Marianne. That is where the bulls graze. So that is the city leases that land to a family who has the bulls. So the priorities are basically sports fields, community center, fire, and police. That's the order that they wanted it done. And the city commissioned Mike McTeer to do a beautiful conceptual drawing. I will find it on the city council minutes probably somewhere and get it up on the link for you guys to see it because it was really great. He did a beautiful job. By the way, that wasn't free. The city paid for that. And then we promptly crumbled it up, threw it in the garbage. Now we're going to put low-income housing there according to the city. I totally get that the state is mandating that cities increase their percentage of low-income housing in their community. It's a formulaic thing. There's a calculation based on your total population, on your income levels, on your median age levels. There's a lot of factors that go into finding that magical number that the city has to supply low-income housing. No one is against that. No one is against that. We absolutely need more low-income housing in Rio Vista, especially in core. If you've ever driven by, I'm going to cry. If you've ever driven by the only Section 8 housing that I'm aware of in the city of Rio Vista, which is the Casitas del Rio apartments, if that doesn't get you the living conditions for our friends and neighbors who are living there, it's not acceptable. So we're talking about 1 and 2 bedroom apartments that haven't been updated in a very long time. And we've got families living in those apartments that are more like 4 or 5 household families. So they're sleeping on floors, and it's barely housing, frankly. So we absolutely need low-income housing, and we need it to be above standard low-income housing. What we have right now is not good enough. But putting them at Harris Airport and Church Road is a terrible idea. And a lot of people talked about on the next door comments, and it was great that, why would we put them so far away from services? Most of these people maybe don't have a car. I can tell you that when I worked at the Rio Vista Food Pantry, a lot of the clientele walks to the Rio Vista Food Pantry from as far away as the complete opposite side of town. Some of them have a wagon, and they bring the wagon, and it doesn't matter how hot it is, and it doesn't matter if it's raining. They bring the wagon to the food pantry, load it up with food, and then walk home. That is the case for a lot of our low income families, and, you know, food insecure families in our community. So putting it way out there, which is still the middle of nowhere in Rio Vista, it just doesn't make any sense. So we need to take a look at that. That's not going to work. Yeah, it is a terrible location for housing, Lydia. I totally agree with you. It's not zoned for housing. It would have to get rezoned by the Planning Commission because nobody ever envisioned that as being housing. It just doesn't make any sense. That actually should be commercial property, as it was originally intended to be. And it makes sense when you look at Sino building their homes. I look in my backyard because my backyard will someday be, I will have backyard neighbors. I don't right now. When Sino builds, I will. It makes sense to have a commercial location at that corner or something for the public good. This is a tough concept for a lot of people, I think, in government, that sometimes the city needs to spend money for the only reason that it is for the public good. My competitor in this race disagrees. My competitor believes, I think, that everything that is done by the city should be profitable. Hi, Roxanne. Hey, Roxanne's here. My competitor believes everything should be profitable. It's not his fault. He's an accountant. That's his background, right? He's used to crunching, debits and credits, and it all has to balance out, and it all has to be on the up and up as far as the profits of the company. This isn't a company. This is a city. You've got a CEO running the city like a business. Um, yeah, I don't know how that benefits the public good. I know that the kids in this town need soccer fields. That adults in this town need a bocce ball court. I want to go play bocce ball real bad. We need a pickleball court. We need basketball courts. We need a centrally located sports complex. We need a community center where we can all gather, not just our friends in Trilogy, but the entire community. Our police department desperately needs a new station. My God, they have black mold in the ceiling. We've just been putting lipstick on a pig on the mobile trailer that should have been demolished 10 years ago. Those things are not going to make the city money. I have no unrealistic expectations about that, but it is for the public good. Patty Harrington said, I was recently told that if they don't put a fire station there, the insurance rates will go up for all of Liberty, too far from the downtown station. Not sure of truth on this comment. That's actually not true, Patty. Several because I sit on the Chiefs committee, I have a little bit of inside knowledge about this, and the response times to Trilogy or to Liberty sometimes are faster than to Trilogy because they can take back roads. But no, the distance from a fire station should not impact their insurance rates. However, I would tell you that I think and the chief of the fire department may disagree with me on this, but I would love to see a fully staffed engine. That would require us to hire some more firefighters, which we desperately need to do, which is a whole nother topic for a whole nother day. We would have to have, I believe that a fully staffed engine and medic ambulance hanging out somewhere near Trilogy is not the worst idea, especially since as the cannabis facilities grow in the business park, we're going to see some pretty large structures out there that if something were to happen and our one staffed engine is out there on a structure fire and they get a medical call in Trilogy, thank God for Montezuma and thank God for Isleton and thank God for River Delta. It's great that we have mutual aid partners. But, if something happened to me, I want Rio Vista Fire Department showing up at my door. I'm sure you guys do too. So that's a whole other conversation that we need to have. And I don't ever want this city's fire department to leave Main Street. I love it on Main Street. I think it adds to the city's charm. But I think a satellite station out closer to Trilogy would not be the worst idea. Lydia said terrible location for housing. Agree. Marianne, would the low income housing be for current residences or open to people from out of town? Great question, Marianne. The answer is both. So I saw somebody make a comment about now I'm not going to remember what it was now, but we have plenty of low income people in Rio Vista right now who need housing. We've got people double bunking. We've got people living in garages. We've got, I promise you this is true. And the way that I know is because all their kids play soccer with me. Um, so I don't want you to think that I have some sort of insider information about low income people in town. No, I know their kids. Their kids go to school with my kids. They're friends. They play soccer with us. I know these families. We have a lot of housing insecure people right now in Rio Vista. So yes, absolutely, it will be for them too. But I think we probably will see some increase in people coming to Rio Vista for low income housing. However, I will tell you, if you are working a minimum wage job in California, that doesn't really pay you enough to justify the commute. So if you're from Sassoon, you're a low income family, you work at Taco Bell, it doesn't make a lot of sense for you to, or Chick-fil-A, it doesn't make a lot of sense for you to move to Rio Vista, frankly. So, yes. So I think we're going to see the majority of that housing go to local families. Now, however, I will tell you, if you don't know, I'm going to teach you something right now. Homecoming subdivision was a low-income subdivision. I don't know if you guys knew that, but that was a low-income housing when it was built originally. The houses, those for first-time buyers. A lot of rentals, a lot of FHA housing loans, first-time buyers. So that was low income when they built it originally. We've seen those houses turn over when the market was so high in Rio Vista. A lot of those people took advantage of their home value and tripled their price on their house and sold them to second and third. Now it's, some of those houses have flipped 3 times. But a lot of those houses that were originally purchased as low income housing were by current Rio Vista residents, not from out of towners. And it was a great opportunity for a lot of those people to build equity. And I know that what we leave our grandchildren is the equity we put in our house. So, for a lot of people, that was a huge deal to be able to purchase a home. So hopefully we will have that ability to, help some families build some equity again. Roxanne Cooper says those guys come to Trilogy 3 to 4 times a day as it is. I actually got a text today from one of my friends who said, God, I'm hearing all these sirens. What's going on? Is it fire? Because they know that I listen to the scanner constantly. I'm like Jackie Machado. If you know Jackie Machado, she's on the scanner right now. So I am getting bad about it. And she texted me and said, what's going on? And I said, no fires. Don't worry. Just overlapping medical calls in Trilogy. Yeah. And again, it's because we don't have any healthcare facilities in Rio Vista. So people, understandably, when they are sick and they can't drive themselves to a doctor, call 911. What other options do you have? We're going to try to fix that for you guys and take some of that burden off our fire department, who do an amazing job, by the way. Lydia asked, what do developers still owe all of Rio Vista for infrastructure? I don't know. I'm going to keep it real with you, Lydia. I don't know. And if we're talking about Liberty, I really don't know, because I was on planning commission when the Liberty subdivision was, when they came to planning and we did their CUP and their development agreement and all that. And even I'm confused. I've looked at the park plan from the city about 16 different times in about 14 different ways, and I still can't figure out why the city is on the hook for that. One. Two, I can't figure out why Liberty overpromised and underdelivered. Three, I can't figure out why the city is telling Liberty residents that they're going to have this beautiful water park, soccer field, all this stuff. And I think that they're saying that they're going to put that in that area that we cannot develop into a park because it's FAA regulations that it's the flight path for the airport. So I can't figure it out, Lydia. There's so many mixed messages that are coming out of City Hall and Liberty and homeowners because I think everybody's been told something different. I was in the meetings and I'm still not clear about what's going on. This is going to take a lot of research to figure out where did it all go wrong that these poor Liberty people moved here and got promised all these things and none of them have come to pass. I will take responsibility for the role I played in that, friends. I was on planning commission. I should have been more forceful. I should have made them commit to things that I assumed they were committing to. Whatever role that I played in that, whatever role I played in them not fulfilling their promises to you, I apologize, and we're going to work to fix it. I'm actually doing 2 listening on the lawn sessions in Trilogy, if any of my or Liberty, if any of my Liberty people are on here. I will be available for face-to-face in Liberty. I'll be at Clark Bilaruski's, I believe, next weekend. And then Marina Pearl has generously agreed to host me, hopefully at the roundabout. There may be a taco truck involved. And I hope all of you will come with your questions. I want to have face-to-face interaction with you. I want to get to the bottom of it because it's not right. A lot of it isn't right. And I love you guys, and I love you so much in this community because you guys all jumped in with both feet. I mean, no kidding. These families moved to our town knowing no one. I can't imagine how scary that is. And they sign their kids up for soccer. They got their kids in the school. They're on the PTC. They're just, it's such a breath of fresh air to have these young families come into our community with so much enthusiasm. And I want to harness that enthusiasm and take advantage of it, you guys. So I want you to be happy, and I want you to love Rio Vista as much as I love it. So we're going to get to the bottom of what happened. Lydia, I hope that answered your question. Patty Harrington said that somebody said on Nextdoor that Section 8 families from Contra Costa are being sent here with no connections to the area. That is news to me. I would love to see the evidence of that. I don't know who would be sending them. Yeah, that confuses me. I have no evidence to support or reject that statement, except for to say that doesn't sound right to me. I don't know why Contra Costa would be sending them. It seems like if there was any sending of Section 8 people, it would be Solano County. Also, let's not get it twisted. Section 8 people are not bad people. They're not criminals. They're moms and dads. They're single moms. They're single dads. They're grandparents raising grandchildren that they never signed up for. They're people just like you and me, and there but the grace of God go I. I'm so fortunate. So I'm not going to say Section 8 people. I'm just going to put that out there. They're not a people. They're folks who are just trying to get by. I was told by a former Fairfield police officer that Section 8 capacity is reached and more moves up 80 corridor. Is there a max on Section 8 for one city? The answer is yes. It's based on population. There is a magic formulaic. The city's actually required to, this is a whole other technology thing, the city's actually required to put links on their website to how to apply for Section 8 housing and to provide the vouchers at City Hall. We don't do that. So I don't know what our number's at. I really don't. I don't think we're probably there if we only have one Section 8 facility in town, and that's the Casitas Del Rio apartments. And that's not very many apartments. So that may have changed since 2016. We may have more housing that became Section 8 housing since then, but I don't believe it. So as far as I know, most Section 8 most most people who happen to utilize Section 8 housing vouchers are in your major metropolitan cities. So they are in Fairfield and Vallejo, basically. Uh, yes, Patty, low income people are just, I'm missing this, just fine. That's right. Because, low income people are going to shop at our stores, and they're going to be in our schools, and they're going to be using our gas, and they're going to be, they use the same facilities that we do. They contribute to the same sales tax base that we do. So regarding the business park, I'm told the city is $2 million in debt. Can you confirm and or expand on this, please? Yes, Marianne, I'd love to. The city's is $2 million in debt. So when we my grandfather loved this term. I hope it's not inappropriate, but I'm going to use it. Betting on the come. Is that an inappropriate term? I really don't know if it's one of those old fashioned, I shouldn't use it anymore kind of terms. But the city bet on the come. We built the business park without any infrastructure. We sold the business park without any infrastructure. Except for Rio Vista Farms, who did basically pay for their own infrastructure. They basically did all their water sewer connections, all their PG&E connections, all of that, which they didn't have to, but they did. Nobody else has been asked to do that, so the city took on the job of developing the business park on the hopes that we would sell all the lots. So we paid approximately somewhere around $5 million for ASTA Construction to do the upgrades to the business park, and for PG&E to come in and make all the lines and put in all the poles and pour sidewalks and roads. That's all infrastructure, right? So the city paid for that, and ASTA did a great job, by the way. And I'm so glad it went to a local company. Unfortunately, we only had $3 million in the bank to pay it off. So right now, the city's in a position where we have to sell the 13 lots in order to come out okay on this deal. So we aren't spending any effort to market those lots to anything other than cannabis. And I think that's a dangerous calculation by the city. If you've seen the statistics and the trends in the entirety of the state of California, cannabis businesses, they went gangbusters when it first became legal. And now it's sort of tapering off, right? So you've got these businesses like Rio Vista Farms who are going to be successful because they had a large amount of money to start with. They had good seed money. They found their clientele. They've expanded. They've done a lot of things right. Excuse me. But I don't know that we're going to see an incredibly large amount. The people beating down the door for land sales in our business park has gotten quiet. The only person that I know of who is actively trying to buy a lot in the business park is actually a local construction company, which would have been awesome. Unfortunately, that, as far as I know at this point, is not a deal that is going to be successful. So the city's betting that all those lots are going to get snatched up. Well, they haven't been snatched up yet. I'm not sure they're going to. We need to develop a marketing strategy to get the remainder of those lots built. We need them purchased, and then we need them built upon. And then we need them to open their business. I don't know about you, but I don't want to look at vacant lots for the next 5 years where the weeds grow tall, because these folks came in and bought the land, and now we're sitting on it, waiting for the cannabis industry to come back to life in California. I don't want that. I don't think you guys do either. I want thriving businesses on those lots. So we've got to come up with a marketing strategy as a city to say that Rio Vista is a great place to do business. We need to make that a mixed-use business park. There's nothing preventing a restaurant from going in there. There's nothing preventing a tire shop from going in there. There's nothing preventing a ma and pa, printing shop going in there. Lots of possibilities. But we've got to go out and find those people and offer them some pretty attractive deals in order to get them to buy the property. Because now we're in a position where we're $2 million in the hole. So hopefully that answers your question. I could talk about that all day. Lydia asks, so that's why the state is pressing Rio Vista to get more low-income housing. Section 8 is reaching capacity in surrounding areas. Absolutely. Like, that's the truth of it. I mean, as I do, California is an incredibly expensive place to live, without much exception. I mean, even areas that were, like if you went up into the, used to be you could go up into the foothills, behind Lodi and Lockford and that area. You could buy a pretty reasonably priced home and live pretty comfortably. I have heard that is now the case in the beautiful town of Bakersfield. That is now a pretty reasonable place to live, and you can afford to buy a house there. But those places are getting fewer and far between. And California is awesome. Everybody wants to live here, and that jacks up housing prices. So yeah, absolutely. But don't be afraid of Section 8 housing. And please don't be afraid of low income housing and what that means for the city of Rio Vista. What it means is, I think we should look at it more like family housing. That's what we're really talking about. We're not talking about 55 and older generally, even though there are plenty of people who are probably living right next door to you on a fixed income in Trilogy who would qualify for low income housing. So these are just ordinary people just like you and me. They drink milk the same. They're going to shop at Lyra's. They're going to contribute to our tax base. They're going to be in our schools. They're going to play our sports. They're going to be members of our community. That's a casino gambling term. Betting on the come is a casino gambling term. Is it foul? Should I not be saying it, Patty? Oh, campaign staff, tell me, help me. Jill says, hi Jill, by the way, birthday twin of my husband. Higher percentage of the income. Here we go. Higher percentage of the income of a low-income family goes back into the economy in sales tax items. That is absolutely correct. You are right. And we are a sales tax dependent city. So most of the income for the city's coffers comes from sales tax. So actually, low-income housing is a good thing for the city. Can the police department go there? Where?
Bulls.
Where?
Where the bulls are.
Where the bulls are, Roxanne? Yeah, plan for where the... Oh, trying to go down on my comments. Hold on. You guys are asking faster than I can talk, and I'm a fast talker. Yes, they absolutely can go there. That was the original plan. I think you jumped on late, Roxanne. There's a beautiful conceptual drawing that looks like a community center, a police department, satellite fire department, and sports fields. It's a great place for the police department. However, I know that they like being in the business park because they're closer to cannabis. I don't know. I really don't think we have a huge law enforcement issue with our cannabis businesses out there. I don't think that's necessarily where the criminals are. So I think that, Slaughter County Sheriff's Department can operate out of anywhere. They're just that good. So, but I worry about them sitting in a black mold infested building. Let's see, Roxanne. What about all the excess money in the 2 enterprise funds? Where will that money be used against debt? So those are water sewer funds. We actually talked about that last week, Lydia. The enterprise funds currently have, over $1 million a piece in them. You could look at them. I'm sorry, I now have an itchy nose. I'm a hot mess today. You can look at it 2 ways. You can look at it as that's an emergency fund. So if we should have some sort of major water, sewer system crisis, we have the money there to do repairs. I was actually told by somebody this week that there was a $1.5 million repair that had to be done on the Northwest plant. And I'm like, the plant's brand new. Why is there a $1.5 million repair? And when did that happen? Anyway, so you can look at it that way, or you can look at it as a giant slush fund. I go with slush fund because, if we're budgeting properly and we're doing a proper depreciation schedule on our facilities, we know when things are going to break. Of course they have shelf life. Great example is in this current budget, they're asking for money to replace membranes at the Northwest Sewer Treatment Plant. Membranes have shelf life. That's not a surprise that the membranes wore out. That happens. They only last so long. So the city decided to call it a capital improvement project. Well, it isn't a capital improvement project. It's a budgeted expense. So, yeah. So that money that's there, that's yours, Yeah, we have some. I have some serious concerns about how it's being used, why it's being held there. I hope that answers your question, Lydia. Um, oh, were you asking about will that be used against the debts for the business park, Lydia? Yeah, Jill, I agree. Economic diversity is a beautiful thing. I agree. It's from craps. My grandpa played craps. He was the craps man. He tried to make me learn how to play craps. I couldn't do it. I just didn't get it. It's too much. I don't know. I still don't understand it. I can play all the other games, but like cribbage and bridge and hearts and spades, but craps never could do. Marianne asked, do you know approximately how much sales tax revenue the city is getting from the cannabis business? Besides jobs, how has Rio Vista benefited financially from the cannabis businesses? Marianne, I'm going to assume that you're talking specifically about Rio Vista Farms, since they are the only cannabis business we have in the city of Rio Vista who's actually up and running. Um, so let me tell you about their. I don't know how much sales tax revenue has come in from the cannabis business. I could actually look it up in the budget right now if you wanted me to, so I can give you an exact figure. Now, I will tell you that that number is, as far as I know, pretty dang unverifiable. We're talking about cash receipts. And by the way, let me just get this out of the way right now. I am not anti cannabis at all. I want it to be known because it has been said about me that I am anti cannabis. Know that that is not the truth. Um, I think cannabis can be a valuable member of our community here, cannabis business. I think they do employ people. I think they employ friends of mine. So I want it to be known I am not anti cannabis. I'm not anti Rio Vista Farms. What I am is I'm pro process. I'm pro checks and balances. I am pro auditing. I am pro playing by the rules. So if those things aren't happening, we're going to have an issue. So cannabis is a cash business because of the federal government. That's a whole other discussion for another time. But because they're a cash business, we're talking about cash receipts. There's really not a lot of really good ways to balance cash receipts, um, you know, against for sales tax. There's not a great way to audit it. I'll give you a great example of how other cities have handled the recent, legalization of cannabis. When cannabis was legalized, the city of Benicia went out and hired two full-time auditors just to audit the books of cannabis companies for the city. Two. They knew that, because Benicia, Vallejo, all those, that area was marketing heavily to cannabis businesses, which, I don't fault them for. And they knew that they were going to need them. So they hired an auditor to basically only handle the sales tax revenue for cannabis industry. But who's doing that for us? I'm not saying that Rio Vista Farms is giving us false amounts on their tax, on their sales tax numbers. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm saying that we have no way to check. And that's just another example of how the city kind of puts the cart before the horse. We were so excited to get cannabis in here. And when I say we, I'm not necessarily including me. We were so excited to get cannabis in here and get started and get some revenue that we didn't bother to set the city up to successfully bring in cannabis business in a legal way. The mayor, I noticed on his website, is very proud of the cannabis ordinance that he helped craft. That ordinance has been amended like 5 times. So we didn't even get it right the first time, which isn't unusual, and it's okay to go back and take a look, and situations change. I totally get that. But we've never crossed the T's and dotted the I's. A great example of that right now is that the city is having to hire an outside planning firm to look at the EIRs. Those are environmental impact reports that were done when the business park was subdivided and sold. Turns out those EIRs maybe weren't done correctly. So now we're having to go back and hire a planning department to actually look at those. Again, cart before the horse. This was a constant battle on Planning Commission. It was very, very personally frustrating because I'm a process person and because I don't understand flying by the seat of our pants. And so I'll just tell you guys right now because I know it's coming out here soon because my competitor is um, running on it. I resigned from Planning Commission. And I will be more than happy to make my resignation letter public. I'm proud of it because in it, it was basically 2 pages explaining why the Planning Commission wasn't working. The whole concept of a planning commission is for them to make recommendations to city council. City council either accepts or rejects those recommendations, and then it's put forth. What was happening with this cannabis industry specifically is that planning commission was spending an inordinate amount of time going over with a fine-tooth comb the CUPs. They were making recommendations for changes to the city council. City council was accepting those changes. Then changes were being made at staff level, basically excluding the people from the entire process. I couldn't take it anymore. I just, it was just minutia stuff too. It was just, the facade at Rio Vista Farms was supposed to be impenetrable. We had asked because it's a steel building, kind of unattractive, right? We'd asked that for attractiveness, that some, faux rock, be put around the base of it to make it look more like a building, right? But we had some security concerns about, well, can somebody actually get through that faux rock with just a simple sawzall and then you're in the building? So we had some concern about that. So we were very specific that we didn't want blow on styrofoam. That's a technique where they take styrofoam, they blow it out of a hose, then they kind of shape it to look like a rock, and then they paint it. We were very specific that that was not allowed. Well, guess what they have? They have blow on styrofoam. That change was made at the staff level because they decided that it was too much of a financial burden for them to do something different and more expensive. So that's why I quit. And I'd be more than happy to make that letter public because I know that a lot of people are have some concern about why I quit Planning Commission. So I'd be more than happy to share that with y'all. And I also would be more than happy to share the letter of response that I got from Mayor Cott supporting me in my decision and supporting all of my assertions that I made. I'm sorry, I got totally off track. Lydia said, like you said last week, we are being overcharged to create that excess. Yes, that's absolutely true. Profiting on water sewer ratepayers. Yes, it's essentially a tax that they never would have gotten passed because it would take, a permanent tax increase takes 0.75% of your 3.75% of the voting, and we never would have passed it. You can tell me later. I don't know what that's about. The bookkeeper, Mayor. Yeah, he is a bookkeeper. Jane says responsibility in government is an important foundation. Absolutely. Lydia said, oh my God, more incompetence. Marianne Alex says, maybe put those letters on this Facebook page. Yeah, I'd be more than happy to. A fine citizen of Rio Vista has PRA'd that letter. So I assume that it will be made public eventually. So I'll just go ahead and put it on here for you guys to read. I'm not trying to hide anything from you all. I am the honest candidate. I will always tell you if I don't know the answer to something, and I will always find the answer for you. So going back to that Liberty conversation, I really don't understand what happened. I don't know. I really don't. It is just some sort of bizarre time warp. Like there was a glitch in the matrix. So that is definitely something that we're going to have to get to the bottom of. Deborah Richards, what's going on with the motel on Highway 12? I assume you're talking about the Royal Inn. I'm going to tell you that's not what I used to call it. I'll tell you what I used to call it. I don't know if you guys remember, but back when it was actually a motel before they had the fire, the first fire, before they had the fire, they had these little globe light fixtures in front of every unit, and they put red light bulbs in them. So we called it the Red Light Motel. Anyway, it was called the Royal Inn. So Deborah, great question. So with COVID, I can't say for certain that they are on track to meet their goals that the city has set out for them, which was for their basically they had to meet certain levels of completion in order to keep their permits, basically. Otherwise, they're going to have to start all over. They have had 2 fires, an industrial accident, And I think there was something else. So it has had delay after delay after delay after delay. I wish that I could tell you that the city had some sort of teeth in order to enforce, um, them had an enforcement mechanism for getting them to be compliant. We really don't. That is definitely something that we need to look at. Again, we don't have a planning director. We don't have a community development director. Those would all fall under their purview. And this absolutely is something that should be constantly reported to City Council from Planning Commission is the blighted property report. I've noticed that it's dropped off since our meetings have gone online. I haven't seen a blighted property report since. Um, there absolutely are still blighted properties in Rio Vista, so I'm not sure why now that we have COVID, those are no longer an issue. So Deborah, I'll get into it. I'll look into it a little more specifically because I'm curious now with COVID if they've gotten a delay. If we've pushed back what those that timeline looked like. Lydia says, "How can so many things be so neglected or out of date or not completed in one city?" Lydia, I wish I could say that I knew the magic answer to that. I don't. Um, I will tell you in Rio Vista, it's not the first time. I will give Mayor Cott a little credit. You know, one of the things that he talks about on as one of his accomplishments is auditing the books. It absolutely needed to happen. It was extremely out of date. Kudos to him for getting that done. That's his bookkeeper background. Um, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that have just sort of fallen by the wayside. If I would dare to guess, Lydia, that we have a priority problem in Rio Vista, and we've had a priority problem for quite a while. We don't really know what we want to be when we grow up. That's where the general plan comes in, and that's where putting stakeholders in the room who are different. It shouldn't just be trilogy people making a general plan. It should be families like mine. It should be families who live in our low income housing. Everybody has a stake in what the general plan looks like. So, yeah, absolutely. We're a little rudderless right now, and I'd like to be the one to get us back on the path. Susie Meredith says, "What's up with the empty building with chain link fence on 2nd Street? Something needs to be done with this eyesore on 2nd Street, across from the library." Is that what you're talking about, Susie? The old Ram Hotel? If that's what you're talking about, they are actually on pause because of COVID. That is the actual answer for that one. They were going gangbusters there for a while, and they were meeting all the goals and objectives the city set out for them. The plans for that building are incredible. When it is done, there will be housing above. It is not low-income housing, and there will be businesses down below. They actually have planned a community kind of garden. Where there's a parking lot there, and then if you look to the right, there's like a little alcove. That's actually going to be a community garden. The plans are beautiful for it. I do know that he does a lot of projects. He does a lot of work. He's also the owner of the Rio Vista Hotel. He does a lot of work in other cities. So I don't know, to be honest with you, I don't know what the status is on construction crews right now with COVID-19 concerns. So if I had to guess, I would say that's the delay. But I certainly, Susie, will follow up on that and see if I can get more information about if there's some other holdup that I'm not aware of. Lydia says, "Can't all be the current city council's fault." 100%. It's not, Lydia. It's not the current city council's fault. That's right. So there needs to be, one of the first things that I'm going to do as your mayor is myself and the city council members who are elected. We're going to sit around a table. It will be open to the public because it has to be. And we're going to sit around a table and we're going to talk about what are our priorities for the next 4 years. I want to set some goals. I want to say, in the next 4 years, we as a council are going to accomplish this. We are no longer going to react. We're going to be proactive. We're going to identify future problems and work to solve them now or have a plan to do so when they come about. All our current city council does right now is react, react, react. It's not their fault, and they are reacting to things that sometimes need to be urgently reacted to. But I can't remember the last time I saw our council do something proactive. Can you? Marianne says, you can tell me later. It is in regards to you saying you would look up tax revenue. Oh. Yeah. No problem, Marianne. I will look it up in the budget and I will get that number back to you. Actually, I'll just put it in the comments. I want everybody to be able to see what that number is. Marianne says, I noticed that the building was being remodeled across the street from the library, came to a halt. Do you know anything about that? So that was Susie's question. Hopefully I addressed it about that building. Roxanne Cooper wants to know, can you talk about how the downtown parking situation may be inhibiting businesses in that area? Absolutely. I'd love to. This is a really controversial subject, believe it or not, parking. Several years ago, the city of Rio Vista decided that parking on Main Street was the number one priority. That we needed to ensure that every business who had a frontage on Main Street had a certain number of parking spots available to them for customers. And they had to be like right in front. So you can't even so for example, Pizza Factory. Well, no, that's not a good example because they have a corner. The Striper. So the Striper has a capacity for, I don't know, I'm just making up numbers now, but let's say the Striper has a capacity for 25 customers. Well, in the city's little magical formula, that means that they should have 4 parking spots in front of their business. Well, if they don't have 4 parking spots in front of their business through no fault of their own, they have to pay the city for the extra parking spot impact on the neighboring businesses, or I don't know what. This came up when Lucy's, the restaurant down on Main Street, close to City Hall there, on the corner of Main and Front. Lucy's actually wanted to expand their business. I was on Planning Commission at the time, and they planned to put in a kind of outdoor area with a wood-fired pizza oven. It was going to be gorgeous. I was so excited about it. But guess what? Not enough parking. So the city asked them to make some special economic payments to the city in lieu of parking, and Lucy's walked away from the table and opened Manny's Brasseria in Ileton, which, if you haven't eaten there, is the bomb. So we have an element of people in town who don't want to walk to businesses. I don't know another way to put it. People do want to park right in front. Yeah, I always want to park right in front too, but sometimes it doesn't work out and I have to walk a little further. I think putting the burden on the businesses in Main Street to supply parking spaces makes no sense to me at all. Those folks didn't sign up to, they didn't build Main Street. I mean, we had more parking spots when Main Street was 4 lanes and, parallel parking. We took parking spots away from Main Street when we put in the planter boxes, which are beautiful, by the way, and I wouldn't go back to the way it was for any amount of money. But the reality of it is we have less parking spaces on Main Street than we used to. So it isn't the responsibility of the business owner to provide the right number of parking spaces for their capacity. That's just ridiculous. Lydia, remember that they had a contest to name that place Bart Porter won? Did he? That's the Ram Hotel? Let's see. Manny's is excellent, Susie. I love their pizza. I also love their garlic bread. Marianne asked, your plans for out of town. Wait, I'm sorry. I don't know why sometimes I need my readers and sometimes I don't. Is that an age thing, friends? Marianne says, your plans for out of town, downtown building owners who are using their empty buildings as a loss tax. We're going to penalize them. There has to be some sort of monetary stick. We've already given them enough carrots, which has been us just looking the other way and saying, oh yeah, go ahead and leave vacant, no problem. So it's time for the stick. And the stick looks like we need to make it uncomfortable for them for it to be vacant. There has to be some sort of monetary value to them renting. Not going to pretend that's an easy process. It's not. I know that the Planning Commission has done a lot of work on it already. Yay, Robbie Williams, who kind of championed that. And they had a meeting with downtown business owners, and they did have some pretty good feedback on it. I believe at this point the idea is dead. Could be due to COVID. I don't know. But I know that there is a conversation that is happening about. Those are my kids. There is a conversation happening about that. I think it's frankly the only way. Part of the challenge, and I don't take this as me being sympathetic to out of town business owners who are leaving their buildings vacant. Part of the challenge of a lot of those buildings is they are not ADA compliant, um, and they need to be, and not just friends, and not just for all the legal reasons that it needs to be ADA compliant. It needs to be for the moral reasons that it needs to be ADA compliant. Having a dad who was in a wheelchair, I can tell you that there are places that literally were not accessible to him. It's an incredibly frustrating process as a disabled person to not have access. So that's a whole other element that out of town business owners are either going to have to figure out how to spend the money to get their buildings ADA compliant, or they're going to pass that along to the new tenant and make it their responsibility. We're going to have a big challenge there. So these are all factors that we need to bring them to the table and we need to talk about, because we definitely need to come up with a strategy. Roxanne says reparking. It sounds like old school Mayberry rules. Most Americans could use a 2-block walk. A girl, I could use a 15-block walk. Lydia says, I love Rio Vista Auto, but they spill out all over Main Street and it's filthy. So I love Rio Vista Auto too. That's where we take our cars. So I might be a little biased. I love James Witt. If you don't know, that was his dad's place. He was the original owner of that building, and when he died, he left it to his son. His son James practices the dying art of mechanics, and he also mentors kids and teaches them about mechanics. And he's an incredible, generous person in our community. Is it ideal to have an auto mechanics place on Main Street? No. I mean, no. However, I will tell you that I've spent a lot of time traveling, and I'm sure you guys have too, and you've seen different downtowns. We aren't the only downtown that has an auto shop on their Main Street. I actually kind of think it's kitschy. I think that it's a beautiful Art Deco building with still some very beautiful elements that I think, if restored, could actually fit in nicely. Sandy, their shrimp scampi is good. I haven't tried the shrimp scampi. I'm not really a shrimp person, but if it's got garlic involved, I'm in. Yes. You are correct, Lydia. Planning Commission does have a spreadsheet of actions for blighted properties that will make your blind snail. I can't.
Make you blind snail's pace.
Make you blind snail's pace. Yeah, absolutely. And again, I will reiterate to you that spreadsheet that's being put out with the blighted properties is being done, and all the follow-up and all the checking and all of this is being done by our city manager. We do not have a planning manager. We do not have a community development director. There is literally no one besides the city manager dealing with any of this. So that is William, you're funny. So that's the huge critical first place to start, is to get qualified people in those positions who understand what the vision is for the city and understand what isn't in the vision for the city of Rio Vista, and go forth. Y'all, we've been doing this for an hour and 18 minutes. And we really didn't talk about the general plan. But I'll keep going. What else you got? We doubled our numbers again tonight, friends. So we are meeting more voters. I just want to give you a quick campaign update. Feel free to throw it. How will we hire the specialists we need? Great question, Lydia. Well, first of all, we've got to put the hiring information that we're actually hiring for a job needs to go someplace other than our website. Right now, that's the only place it goes. Our jobs for the city of Rio Vista are not posted on governmentjobs.com, which is the largest, job search engine for state, local, federal jobs. We don't put jobs there. So we aren't even getting qualified candidates. We're not even reaching out to qualified candidates. We've never used a headhunting firm, as far as I know. We've never reached out to UC Davis or Sac State or any of the area colleges to see who they have for internship programs. or newly graduated folks who are getting their master's in public administration. Those are all great resources that we have right here in our backyard, and I don't feel like we're taking advantage of it. I think we kind of just throw up our hands and say, well, we tried, but we didn't try. Marianne, maybe 50-50 split between the city and business owners to make the businesses ADA compliant, enterprise slush fund, then have the owner pay the city back or make sure that the building is rented out. Just thinking of options. I think those are all good options. I don't think there's any such thing as a bad idea. It just maybe an idea that hasn't met its time yet. So this is definitely something that's going to have to be, this is an idea that's going to have to get massaged, and we're going to have to put all the people in the room and a planning manager and a community development director to kind of see what our options are, to see how the city can help. Jill, I'm going to answer your question in just a second. Just got a private message. Actually, I think it was to my husband, but whatever. So yeah, this is going to be an all hands on decks conversation about, because really, as a sales tax dependent city, we have to do more to bring in sales tax revenue. The way that you do that is tourism and business. So, those two things go hand in hand. Patricia asks your opinions on the food trucks that come 2 to 3 times a week to the Liberty and doesn't contribute to the city and youth sports. Hey, so Patricia, I love you. That's a really controversial topic that I kind of don't. I'm going to tell you about how I feel about it personally, and then I'm going to tell you how I feel about it as your candidate for mayor. Personally, it doesn't get me real excited. I haven't been. I am a frequent. I'm a frequent customer of the restaurants in town. I tip heavily and largely because, listen, they're cooking when I don't want to. I did have plans to go out on Wednesday for the Portugal truck because I was so excited to have Portuguese food. I actually looked at their menu and went, oh, wait, they're Greek, which I like too. So we don't have a Portuguese restaurant or a Greek restaurant in town. So that's sort of how I justified it personally, that I'm actually not directly competing with a restaurant in town if I'm eating a type of food that isn't offered here. That's how I personally feel about it. Now, I will tell you, Liberty got the wrong end of the stick on a lot of things, Patricia. These are people who came out, they gave up everything they had in the community they were in, moved here, on a wish and a prayer, knowing nothing about Rio Vista, got sold a bill of goods by LGI, and turns out it's not as rosy as they thought it was going to be. They need a little hope, and they need a little sense of community, and I think this is how they have done it. They are kind of out there on their own. They aren't connected, like physically connected to the city. By the way, if you look at the general plan, that was never the idea. The commercial element was supposed to go in first so that we could connect. The idea was that, CORE would be using their commercial facilities and then they would use their commercial and then we would all come together and, that was the idea, but we didn't do it that way, even though the general plan made other suggestions. So I really, I'm very sympathetic, and I think whatever we can do in our communities to build a sense of community, the city should be for. And genuinely, I believe that's what they're doing. They are bringing in the food trucks and they're, building that sense of community. They're making friends, moving into a new community. You know how it feels, Patricia, to move into a community and not know anybody. I think that's what I honestly think that's the motive. So that's all I'll say about that. Roxanne Cooper said the city's website is a trip into time machine. Yes, and we're going to talk about it next week. I just decided we're going to have a technology talk. It is like going backwards in time. Ironically, Roxanne, because you said that, we actually found the old city website that preceded this one that we have now, and it's still up and running. I'll link it for the next week. Lydia says, can we afford those specialists and can we get an actual specialist to run the airport? Hey, so great question. We're going to have a whole live about the airport because It's complicated. Yes is the answer. We have one of the highest paid city managers in the region. And we're Rio Vista. So, I think there's money to be found. I think that there is, we were playing a community development director and a planning manager. Isaac George hasn't been gone that long, and Dave Mullally hasn't been gone that long. We had salaries for them. And I would argue that Dave Mullally was probably the most qualified public works head that we've had in a long time. But he stayed because he loved it, even though it wasn't probably the highest paying job he could have got. So yeah, I think where there's a will, there's a way, Lydia. It's critical. I mean, I cannot emphasize this enough. Having people in those key positions is critical to get us through the next 10 years. Susie says, I'm all in for more food options in this town. Yeah, me too. Totally, Susie. And, it's... Patricia says, my opinion is do your research. Patricia, if you want to PM me, you feel free. I have an open door policy. You can text me too. I think you still have my number. And we could totally talk about this offline if you want to. Listen, I got yelled at on Delta News. I've taken my medicine on this one. So, yeah, I mean, let's talk. The truth of it is there's really nothing the city can do about it. They are getting permits. They do have to get a permit with the city to bring a taco truck in, just like we could maybe having food trucks in, downtown. We could have a food truck festival if we wanted to. My only concern about it is, from a safety standpoint, are we doing everything we can to socially distance and we're wearing masks? I can't control people's individual behaviors. I can only control mine. So, but Susie, yeah, back to the more food options. We absolutely need more food options in this town. I will tell you though that I think the food options we have are pretty great. I'm actually trying to think of what we're going to have for dinner tonight because I'm not cooking. I'm doing this with you guys. I want to talk about the campaign a little bit. We've been doing this for an hour and a half, which is super fun. And so let's just talk about a couple of quick little updates. Chances to see me. So there will be listening on the lawn events still. We have several planned in Trilogy. Like I said before, we have 2 planned in Liberty and a couple in Homecoming. And I'm still working on getting some opportunities in core, old core, that are not my house. But if worst comes to worst, we can do it on my front lawn. It's a great opportunity for me to see you face to face with a mask on and socially distant. It will be outside. And if you're coming to a listening on the lawn, if you've been invited to one, what you can expect is, I'll give a quick little talk. And then like the name says, what I'm there for is to listen to you. I'm a note taker. I will be taking notes. I will be following up. I will be emailing you. You will be my new texting buddy. Oh my gosh, I am missing like all these texts. Yeah. I also am banned from Delta News, Patricia. But I'm on there again. There will never be another fast food restaurant on Highway 12, Susie. I highly, highly doubt it. I've been wrong before. I grew up in a Rio Vista with no fast food. I thought Granny's and the Dandelion were the thing. Maybe on the other side of the bridge. That actually would be a great place for one because of the heavy commute traffic. I just don't see, with our traffic impact on 12, I just don't see it making a lot of sense. I could be wrong. I personally would prefer, I think we're okay with what 2 that we have. But so listening on the lawns, I'm sorry, I'm super sidetracked today. And yes, my kids are hungry. So you can still sign up to host a listening on the lawn. I'll be doing them every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, either at 10 a.m. or 7 p.m. at your home, basically through September. So if you are interested in hosting me on your lawn or your driveway or your small patch of grass, I'm pretty flexible. You need to let either me know through our website, which you can sign up to volunteer on our website for either for that or any other job you'd like to have. And that's goforgollinger.com. or you can contact Patty Harrington, who is my listening on the lawn coordinator. Thank you, Patty. And her email address is maxcurie. That's MAXCURIE at hotmail.com. Did I get that right, Patty? You're right. There's 3. I forget KFC and Taco Bell are 2 different things. So that's one way that you can help. The other way that you can help is you can donate. We are officially live to take donations. I don't know how anybody runs for office. It literally took 37 days to get my paperwork back from the state to make it acceptable for me to accept donations. So as of about 7 o'clock tonight, maybe 8, Pete has to push a button. You'll be able to make donations on my website, which is also goforgollinger.com, or you can send a check to my house, which is 2 Rolling Place Court, Rio Vista, 94571. Make sure that you also go to my website where you can fill out a form to get a yard sign. Yard signs should be arriving in the next couple of days, and then we'll be driving around and putting up our pretty yard signs. This is obviously something that we're going to do again next Friday. I'd love to talk technology if you guys are agreeable to that. We can talk about how to bring the city into the 21st century kicking and screaming. I don't think we've even scratched the surface on the general plan, because there's a lot to talk about, guys. So make sure that you're sharing that this is happening. I want to be able to reach as many people as possible. If you have any questions, you guys can always reach me here. You can send me a private message. You can text me. My number is 209-224-1615. That's how transparent I am. And I will do my best to get back to you. Any other questions before we sign off? We've been at this for an hour and a half, which is fun. Wrong tube. I'm okay. We'll edit that out. I swallowed that wrong. I'm not dying. Okay, that was hilarious. I am going to go feed my kids before they rebel and join other families. I am going to go feed my kids. Thank you so much, you guys. You're amazing. Thank you for tuning in week after week. Sorry, and next week we'll talk technology. Have a good night, guys.